Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Get to catch up with our buddy, former Saint linebacker Scott Shanle, doing great work with Your View, Louisiana. Scott, we appreciate you as always, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Appreciate you having me on.
Man, it's always our pleasure. Wish times were better for the Saints. Man, best guess what that mood is like in the locker room right now, where it's so much expectation, but out the gate you're sitting here at 2-5.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys in that locker room who all they know is success. I mean, a lot of guys who were drafted. You talk about all the way back to 2017. Really, the first major adversity this locker room has faced as far as record. Expectations were extremely high going into the year. A lot of people were concerned about the quarterback position, but really nobody was concerned about the defense. Nobody was concerned about the receivers or the O-line. So I think right now there's a little bit of doubt probably creeping into the locker room, like how good can we be? And I think when guys get healthy, there's so many injuries. That's the nature of the NFL, but many teams are playing without their top two corners, their top 2 or 3 wide receivers. Let's see when they get here. Hopefully they help.
Yeah.
See some of that hope start to replace that fear and doubt in locker room.
Scott, I'm curious if your last season with the Saints was 2012, and that was the Bounty Gate year where Sean Payton was suspended. Do you see any comps to what it's like for the first time not having Sean Payton in the locker room, even though all the structure they tried to keep the same?
Oh, absolutely. The worst thing that can happen is what's kind of happening right now with losing games, because they really need to have a successful season this year, and maybe that's 9-8. Maybe that's digging yourself out of this hole and ending a positive note, even if that means you don't make the playoffs. But I think the guys in the locker room have to prove everything's going to be okay without Sean Payton. Sean Payton, he has a presence about him. There's an aura. There really is a presence when he walks around. So just like 2012, we all said it's going to be fine. We know what to do. We're veterans. We're pros. I think we started the season off pretty slow, and not only do we not have Sean Payton there, we had 2 separate coaches. We had Joe Vitt, we had Aaron Cromer for some of the year. So it was really odd because you never knew what voice to follow. Obviously, Drew Brees really felt like our interim head coach. He was the constant face and the calming voice, but there's just something about having your guy in front of the room. And when you don't jump off to a good start at the season, you start to lose a little bit of hope.
So when you're sitting here at 2-5, I think the easy thing to say, Scott, is you keep plugging along, you take it one game at a time. It's sort of that cliched thing. But how easy is that, or is that even easy? Is that believable at this point?
I'll tell you what, it's believable. I think when you're a part of a winning organization, you believe you can win any game, even though maybe you're sitting there 2-5 and you thought you'd be 5-2. You feel like because you play for the New Orleans Saints and the guys that are assembled in the locker room, you can win any given weekend. The problem is when you're 2-5, you can play great this weekend and be 3-5, and then you slip up the following week, you're 3-6. So it's a slippery slope because you can be intensely focused every single week. Doesn't mean you're going to win in the NFL. It's just really hard to continue feeling that way week after week unless you're winning week after week.
Well, you'll follow him on Twitter at Scott Shanle. So when you look ahead to this week, they do get a little bit of rest, right? I mean, it's a 10-day break because you played on Thursday Night Football. Then here come the Raiders. A couple of things. First, Dennis Allen said today that Jameis is improving. They have to make a decision at some point what they're going to do at quarterback. What would you like to see him do?
Right now, because of the NFC South, I think Dalton with a lot of Taysom Hill or more Taysom Hill. Listen, this offense has seen the most success they've had the past 3 weeks since they went with Dalton and Taysom. I mean, they had almost 500 yards of offense or way over 400 yards. They've been scoring 30 points or more in the last 3 weeks. So the offense side of the ball has found something. So I say stick with that. But if the season is a wash and it's a waste and you have no chance in the NFC South, I think you have to throw Jameis out there. And whether it's 5, 6, 7, 8 games, you got to find out what you have in Jameis Winston. And this organization was hoping that they found the number one pick that Jameis Winston was. We haven't seen that yet. There's been inconsistencies. But listen, this organization doesn't have a first-round pick. There's not going to be a great free agent quarterback. They're tying this year and next year to Jameis Winston.
I completely agree with you. But you mentioned at some point, that they'll have to, if they're out of it, they have to go make that decision. At what point as an organization do you look and say, okay, this season is a wash. Let's think about the future.
I think when you're mathematically eliminated from the NFC South,
that might not be at all this year, man.
and it might be a long time because nobody thought the Bucs would be slipping up the way they are. 3-4 and 3-4, and two teams at 2-5. I don't think you can do anything crazy. You have to try to focus on every game as long as you're in it and not really look towards the future.
You were on that team in 2010 that had to go play in Seattle against a 7-9 Seattle team. I mean, what is your feeling? Do you have an opinion on teams with a losing record getting in the playoffs?
Well, I have a strong feeling and strong opinion on this because we experienced it and played at a 7-9 team, and not just because the Beastquake and all that stuff happened. We didn't play well that day, but there was no reason why we should have been playing on the road. And it's driven me crazy, not just for us, but every team since then. Teams that get, if you want to give a division champion an automatic bid to the playoffs, go ahead. But that, just because you won a bad division does not earn you a home game. And I don't know why the NFL has not changed it yet. If you're a 12-5 wildcard team, you get to host a game. That's just how it should be. You should get rewarded for winning a lot of games. And I've always felt that way since that point.
It has happened twice since your 2010 Saints had to go to Seattle. 2014, the Panthers won the NFC South at 7-8-1 and actually won their wildcard game at home. And then in 2020, the Commanders, or the Washington football team, hosted the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Tom Brady in his first year. Of course, we know Brady and the Bucs would go on to win the Super Bowl that year. Scott, for the Saints this year, you're right. They're moving the ball. They're scoring points. The defense has been clearly not up to the standard that Dennis Allen had set here in the last half decade. If I asked you, what is it? Is there a thing you can put your finger on and say that's the reason this defense isn't performing right now?
Well, I want to blame injuries, but that's the easy scapegoat. And like Dennis said last week, everybody has injuries. You're missing Marshawn Lattimore and Adebo last week. It's tough. It is tough to win games in the NFL if you don't have starting corners out there, and you have to do a lot of different things defensively. And if you don't have your starting corners, your D-line better play elite. Besides Cam Jordan, everybody's been invisible on the front four. So if you made me tie down issues on this defense, everybody on the front four besides Cam Jordan needs to step up and show up in the box score. And somebody at safety needs to make some plays. And neither safety is doing enough right now to help this defense. I think those are the glaring issues on the defense. I mean, you look at the box score every week, it's Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, and Pete Werner doing all the work. I mean, somebody else needs to step up.
Scott, what do you think about, last thing, what do you think about this matchup with the Raiders this week at home? Saints are a slight underdog at home. Las Vegas struggle themselves out of the gate. How do you think the Saints match up?
Yeah, I mean, I have to stop looking at the schedule with my Saints glasses from the past 4 or 5 years and saying, oh, I like this game at home. I think the Raiders haven't been playing well. Well, the Saints haven't been playing well either. So,
right.
The expectations have changed dramatically. Game could go either way. It's going to come down to having Lattimore out there on Devontae Adams, and Derek Carr, you're going to have to get pressure on him. He gets rattled if you get pressure on him. And Josh Jacobs has been playing really good at running back. They declined his fifth-year option. He's running like he's trying to get a new contract. So they may be – their record does not indicate how talented their team is. You're going to have to jump on them quick, and maybe they'll lose a little bit of steam. But it's going to be a tough matchup.
Darren Waller's going to be out, and he, of course, had a day against the Saints a year ago out in Las Vegas. So maybe that's one benefit to New Orleans with Waller not being there. He's Scott Shanle. You can catch him every Saints game day on Your View. Hey, man, we always appreciate a couple of minutes. Thanks for making the time.
Yep, no problem.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.